This is Just a Few Questions. I'm Marc Sims. My guest is lifelong organizer Kina Collins. Welcome to the show, Kina Collins.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. It's such a pleasure to be on.
It's been a long time coming. It's finally here. So let's get right into it. Everyone should know you ran for Congress in the 7th Congressional District here in Chicago twice. So you can talk about that
Mhm.
if you want. But the question I want to ask is, after you say that, what is next for Kina Collins?
Yeah. It just was such a great experience to meet so many people across the district um, who were just so passionate about moving our democracy forward, moving our district forward. And, so many thoughts have just arisen out of that. I think the place that I'm in right now is more of a mentorship stage for other candidates who are going to run for more local offices. As you know, given this current election in November, the local politics is going to be more important now than ever. And it's a blessing to have that much wisdom come from my campaign. As some of your listeners may know or they may not know, we were the most serious primary challenger Congressman Davis had ever had. And he is an icon in many ways, but I definitely think it's time to pass the torch. And so I do want to spend a lot of my energy focusing on extremely vulnerable populations that are going to be rocked by this Trump administration, namely in primarily the African American community here in Chicago and in Illinois, focusing on expanding the tent of voters in the Democratic Party, young people and first time voters, not just across my district, but once again across the state, keeping Illinois a safe haven for folks in the Midwest. Um, and yeah, just teaching folks what I know from this point on. And then, of course, I've been doing a lot of nonprofit executive leadership.
Well, you okay? You said you. I have my microphone down. I was so engrossed listening to you. I turned it down. So let me listen to Kina Collins. She's so good. Let's. I know you're a progressive candidate.
Mhm.
Progressive politics, and the question is, how can the American voters that want to do this persuade the Democratic Party to become more progressive?
You know, progressive ideas and agenda items that and policy platforms are wildly popular. Things like Medicare for all, um, concentrating on building out a green economy that have and specifically giving those jobs to frontline communities that have been impacted by environmental injustice and environmental racism, eliminating college student loan debt, right? And making college free for American students. All of those things are highly popular across the nation. I'm going to be honest. One of the reasons I ran against Representative Davis is because it's just time. It's time for him. We appreciate the time that he has given to the district. This man has been in public office for 40 years, right? A lot has changed and happened in 40 years. And I think in order for us to push forth a progressive agenda and get the party on track with what the country and the populace really wants, we got to vote out folks who've been in there for a really long time and who have been impeding us. Mark, I know you're on top of it, but just recently, AOC, Representative Ocasio Cortez, who she took down a blue dog Democrat 6 years ago, to become the youngest woman to enter into Congress. She she just went for the oversight committee leadership position for this upcoming session for our Congress, and she was tamped down by Nancy Pelosi and others in the party, and she was defeated by a 74-year-old congressman who unfortunately has esophagus cancer right now. Right, that type of lack of political instinct from Democratic Party leaders is the thing that is hindering us. We have not just lost the White House, we've lost the House, the Senate, we lost the popular vote in the first time in 20 years. We have a right leaning Supreme Court, and 26 out of the 50 state legislatures across the country are Republican and GOP led. And a lot of what they're doing in the GOP is replacing older members with younger firebrand members, and they're running digital campaigns that are reaching the masses. And so Democrats have to stop running these campaigns as if they're in the 90s. They have to have faith in the young people who they've planted these seeds in, and they have to give us the opportunity to take the baton and run on and continue to protect democracy. But if we can't get that to happen, then I don't know how we could get Democrats more progressive. And to me, it's not just left or right. I don't think the direction of the party is more Democrat or Republican. I think the direction of the party is working class. As we see the wealth gap continue to expand, as we see inflation continue to go up, this is a battle of class warfare happening. People really feeling the pinch at the grocery store and other places. And if we aren't talking about ideas that are going to save money and put money in the pockets of American people and keep food on the table and keep the lights on, then we're going to lose the plot with a lot of voters.
Well, I see. I don't have a national podcast, so I can beat up on the voters. The masses, you know the old joke. There's people that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and the third group says, "What happened?" And so, and a lot of people are not connected to even local. I was talking about the national Democratic Party, but people are not even connected locally with local politics. They don't think it really makes a difference. They think that if I vote, things are really not going to change. It's not going to change. So how do you convince people that rarely vote and never vote to say this time, come on out here and be consistent about it, vote in every election?
Well, I always, I've had this practice over the last couple of years that you may not do politics, but politics will do you, right? Every decision that happens in your lifetime, from the time you wake up in the morning, how much your, train fare costs, to how much money you're making at your job, the workplace environment at your job, the clothes that you have on, the taxes that you pay on the snack that you grab or the lunch that you grab during your time at work. All of that is being dictated by somebody who is in office and who has been elected in office. And the people who may disagree with you or have opposition to your worldview of how things should happen, they're voting. They're voting. And when you don't vote, you relinquish that opportunity to have your voice heard, and you allow somebody else to dictate how your experience is going to happen here in this country, whether it's locally or nationally. And so that's what I've always been told. You may not do top politics, but politics will do you.
But I think my contention that people, a lot of voters or non-voters, let's say non-voters especially, they want an instant, tangible benefit. If I vote for you, am I going to get a job? Or let me go far afield or in another direction. You got people who voted for the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, for president, thinking that the Republican Party, conservatives, and Donald Trump is really going to make prices go down, life better for working class or low middle class Americans. That's not going to happen. Do you think? I'm going to be mean here. Do you think the average voter, they miseducated, uneducated, they don't really know what the hell is going on. They don't understand politics and how this works. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it 100% is. The thing though that, first of all, he is not. You're 100% correct about that. He is not. This is a man that has been wealthy his entire life. He's never changed his own tire. He's never cooked his own food. He does not live the life. He doesn't breathe the air we breathe or drink the water we drink. So he doesn't understand the economic realities that a lot of us, majority of Americans, have gone through because he was born into the 1%, right? But this goes back to the original point that I just made in that first riff that I did. The Republicans, what they got really smart at was running digital marketing campaigns focused on the things that people want to hear, while doing the opposite of what they said they're going to do. Can we really get mad at Donald Trump at this point when he has told us who he is numerous times? We saw how he ran the country. We saw how he ran the country during a crisis when COVID struck, and people still decided to vote for him. So, this is a situation where here's another thing that happened after he got elected. We saw the highest increase of untraditional voters running for office after he ran because he did such a bad job. And by the midterm, he had lost the House by that first midterm that he was in office. So sometimes you have to let people see that elections have consequences, and that puts the fire under them to get organized and to do things. But I mean, I can't say in this election cycle that he duped people, because we've had him as a president before. We know his background. We know that he's a habitual liar, and people have still voted for him.
Well, the thing, a lot of people didn't vote. That's what I always like to talk
That's
about. The people who,
yeah,
the
15
people.
million
I mean,
people.
yeah, there's a
didn't
lot
vote.
of folks did not vote. And let me the last question, because I know you're busy and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm just happy you're here. So his last question. Okay, we know. I mean, I think the the Republican Party, conservatives, they do fear and misinformation, which is very very effective. So what should the Democratic Party do? Even especially those who are progressive, and so some people in the middle of the road Democrats, what should they do? If they're not going to do fear and misinformation, what are they presenting? How are they going to persuade and convince the non-voters to participate in every election?
Well, Mark, I'm glad that you bring it up this point, because the answer is right in what you're saying. The pipeline to flip all of this is not turning too much in this past election. They were focusing on we want to pull Republicans into the mix. The Republican Party now is completely gone. This is not the Republican Party, once again, that they grew up with, where people were willing to work across the aisle. And so where Democratic Party leadership is messing up is that they think that the pipeline is turning red voters into blue. That's not the pipeline. It's turning non-voters into the voters. That's where it is. You're not battling with Republicans or moderates, or I would even argue independents. You're battling getting people off the couch and getting them to the polls. That was where they missed the plot in this last election cycle, in my opinion, was that people who were going to vote for Donald Trump were always going to vote for Donald Trump, right? He came out and he did his thing, and they did it. And that goes for local election. It goes back to your original point also for local elections, that we have to organize year round, not just during election season. Back in the days when a lot of people talk about Harold Washington, they had precinct captains. They had block club presidents. They were plugged into the pulse of what was happening in the actual community, which led to a historic win like that. We have to go back to that model. We have to actually sit and listen to what people are saying and then act on those things. So you brought up the point of people want an immediate response, or may need an immediate incentive to get out and vote. Well, when you're organizing your community and you're doing mutual aid, or you're connecting them to their state representative to help them get a job, or they feel the impact immediately. But if you only show up every election cycle and then you flood their mailboxes with mailers and people come knock on the door only during election time, it feels disingenuous, and that's where the disconnection. Democrats are not battling this flipping red to blue. That's number one. We need to go back. The pipeline is turning the non-voter into the voter and getting folks off the couch and getting them back engaged. And the second thing is relational organizing year round, not just during election time.
Kina Collins, thank you for being my guest.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You're wonderful.